Well, I mean, the first thing is that we, as ever with this administration, we learn more from reading leaks in the press than we ever do from listening to these guys. And by the way, the fact that this hearing is happening behind closed doors is absolutely outrageous. It is a total travesty, and it's for one reason only. They do not want to have any accountability. They do not want to answer questions in public. This is not oversight. It is a joke.
Yeah, Senator Josh Hawley, I mean, that truly is a joke. And this administration has continuously failed this country when it comes to dealing with foreign policy. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and Secretary of State Anthony Blinken on the hot seat on Capitol Hill today in, that is right, a closed-door hearing on the botched Afghanistan withdrawal.
But you won't hear much about it. Republicans have pushed for greater oversight, demanding that the hearing be open to the public. But as Congressman Hawley said, a public hearing means public accountability. And we all know Joe Biden's White House prefers to hide in the shadows. Newly leaked notes from the Situation Room on August 14th of last year, the day before Kabul fell, shows just how woefully unprepared the administration was to evacuate civilians. The National Security Council memo outlined steps to be taken in order to get people out. They were working on these plans the day before. One part of the memo states that, quote, deputies agreed on the priority given to U.S. embassy personnel, U.S. citizens, and all Fed personnel with whom the U.S. government has agreements for evacuation. Except they hadn't even determined yet who would be on that list. The action on the memo states, quote, all departments and agencies will transmit their lists of priority populations to be considered for relocation immediately. Another big surprise, that's not all that surprising, no one in the administration had reached out to any other countries to serve as transit points for the evacuees. The State Department was tasked with doing that at 4:30 p.m. the day before the evacuation was to take place. Joining us now is Florida Congressman Greg Steube. Congressman, thanks for joining us tonight. Let's start with these hearings. I mean, what could possibly be the reasoning behind keeping this hearing closed to the public?
Well, obviously, they don't want the American public and the Republican senators to be able to get the real information out to the people. Otherwise, we'd be having hearings in the House. We'd be having open public hearings in the Senate. So obviously, they're wanting to hide something. We haven't even had hearings like that in the House because it's run by Democrats, and they don't want anything like this to get out to the public. So it's a very sad state of affairs when you see such a botched withdrawal that occurs in Afghanistan, and the American people don't get to hear from the leaders who are responsible for the withdrawal.
Yeah, I thought, Congressman, this was shocking when I read this Axios stories about this leaked memo coming out of the Situation Room and clearly showing how unprepared this administration was to handling this Afghanistan evacuation. I got to tell you, even from an outsider, I knew this was a disaster from day one. Will there be any accountability? What will Congress do, and particularly the Republican members do, to demand an answer that have left behind Afghan women, Afghan children, and left even Americans left behind in Afghanistan because of Joe Biden's failure?
Well, there will absolutely be accountability when Republicans take control of the House. And we have responsibility of the gavels to be able to bring in these people, subpoena documents, interrogate these individuals. And I would submit to you that you will probably see the Defense Secretary, Milley, and others resign once they see that we've taken the House, because they're going to know they're going to be called to the carpet to answer very tough questions on all of this information. As we sit here today and have a discussion, there are still American citizens stuck behind enemy lines in Afghanistan, not to mention the $80 billion worth of military equipment, Humvees, Apaches, Black M4s, you name it, that we left behind, our American tax dollars left behind for terrorists to take those weapons. And you know they're trading them with the Chinese, trading them with the Russians. So we take the majority in the House this coming November and take the gavels in January, we will be able to do oversight on all these individuals. And I bet they resign before that happens because they don't want to be called to the carpet on the decisions that they knew and the information that they had when they made those decisions.
Congressman, you know, in that memo, the word immediately appeared throughout, but it's obviously clear that officials are still scrambling to finalize their plans. Only just decided to notify local Afghans to begin to register their interest in relocation to the U.S. So the administration was aware that there would be a mad dash through these checkpoints, which is where those 13 service members were killed by a suicide bomber. That's just, can't process that.
Well, the administration had to know that we were losing provinces over months of period of time. There's maps on on the internet of showing the provinces that were being taken over by the Taliban after the May deadline that Trump's administration had negotiated on a conditions-based withdrawal that they completely violated. Once that happened, the Taliban started taking over provinces, and it didn't take a genius to figure out that they were moving through these provinces and making their way to the capital. And all you had to do was watch and see what was happening. The leaders in the Biden administration did absolutely nothing, watching what was occurring, waited till the very last minute to do something about it the day before.
Right. And another part of the memo calls for meetings to determine how to evacuate, quote, journalists, women, human rights advocates, and others who have either not been vetted or have received limited vetting. So they knew there would be unvetted refugees, but they hid that from the American people. And now we're paying the consequences. Why has this happened? How is the administration going to respond to their lack of putting a plan in place that would be effective?
Well, the administration is not going to respond because they don't have Republicans in control forcing them to respond. The Democrats aren't going to call them the carpet on things that have happened there because they know it was a completely botched withdrawal and one of the worst situations in our foreign policy history of the country. Until Republicans control and we can start throwing them under the carpet. And this leaked memo is just scratching the surface of the information we're going to be able to obtain when we take control of the House, start getting documents, putting these people under oath, and deposing them under oath as to what exactly they knew and they knew it and what they were doing about it, and the information that the administration knew that they absolutely ignored. Again, we have citizens who are still trapped in Afghanistan. This administration is doing nothing about it. And oh, by the way, while we're doing nothing about it, sending thousands of troops to the Ukraine, we have no business getting involved in that. So we still have American citizens in Afghanistan, billions of dollars in military equipment that they've absolutely abandoned, all of that in Afghanistan.
And we also have